Hello, welcome back to another breaking news update. My name is Jimmy Boyd, and you were watching Boyd News. I want to thank you so much for tuning in today. I'm back with another update coming out from the war between Russia and Ukraine, and I've got very big news to share with all of you today. So, last night, Russia launched a major drone attack onto Ukraine. I believe about 133 drones being fired to attack Ukrainian territory. And we have a very horrible incident that happened last night and very scary to have to report. A Russian drone struck Ukraine's Chernobyl nuclear power plant. You can see here in the video footage. And the strike hit the concrete shelter that covers the plant's destroyed former fourth power unit, sparking a fire that was later extinguished, and radiation levels have not increased after the hit, thankfully. Okay, so yeah, apparently there's a concrete shelter that protects one of the destroyed fourth power units at the Chernobyl nuclear power plant, and a drone directly striking this thing. Very scary, because imagine if this thing happened to break through and caused a major nuclear incident over here. This would be really bad. And I don't know exactly why Russia would have attacked this nuclear power plant. Maybe this drone happened to just go astray and head over here, or who knows if it actually was directly attacking this and this actually was the target. This is the first time I've ever heard of the Chernobyl nuclear power plant being attacked. I'm not sure if it's ever been attacked before, but we did have major damage. You can see here in the video footage from the inside of that concrete shelter. So looks like the shelter did its job for the most part, but still very dangerous. Okay, so we're going to talk about that. I've got more pictures coming out from that area to show you guys. And also, today's a very big day inside of Munich, Germany. We have the Munich Security Conference going on right now. Lots of top leaders from the West have arrived over there. Zelensky was there as well. And they're discussing the major topic of trying to end this war with Ukraine. So I've got major statements coming out from there to share with you also, and numerous other things coming out from this war that I'd like to update you on. So let's go ahead and jump into the news, guys. No mainstream news article today, but we're going to start off here with Volodymyr Zelensky, the president of Ukraine, on X. Last night, a Russian attack drone with a high explosive warhead struck the shelter protecting the world from radiation at the destroyed fourth power unit of the Chernobyl nuclear power plant. This shelter was built by Ukraine together with other countries of Europe and the world, together with America, all those committed to real security for humanity. The only country in the world that attacks such sites, occupies nuclear power plants, and wages war without any regard for the consequences is today's Russia. This is a terrorist threat to the entire world. The shelter at the Chernobyl nuclear power plant was damaged by this drone. The fire has been extinguished. As of now, radiation levels have not increased and are being constantly monitored. According to initial assessments, the damage to the shelter is significant. Every night, Russia carries out such attacks on Ukraine's infrastructure and cities. Russia continues to expand its army and shows no change in its deranged, anti-human state rhetoric. This means that Putin is definitely not preparing for negotiations. He is preparing to continue deceiving the world. This is why there must be unified pressure from all who value life. Pressure on the aggressor. Russia must be held accountable for its actions. Okay, so big statement from Zelensky today. And something that I just want to note real quick before we move on here, and kind of responding to Zelensky's statement, is what we have seen personally after reporting this war over the last couple weeks, is Russia definitely has been picking up their attacks. We've been seeing lots of missile attacks, at least 3 or 4 just over the last week or week and a half inside of Ukraine. Major critical infrastructure being targeted, like in the Poltava region. We had the gas storage facilities over there being destroyed in multiple areas of the Poltava region, completely out of heating for many people. And I must note, it's in the middle of winter right now, so it's very cold over there. Russia's been stepping up their missile attacks onto Kiev recently, targeting Kiev with drones and missiles almost repeatedly every day. We even had those major strikes in Odessa just about a week ago as well. So Russia definitely is not showing any signs of peace. You would think if we're going to start moving towards negotiations, these attacks would cease, but they're actually getting more dangerous if you think about this. Now we have this strike on this nuclear power plant, the Chernobyl nuclear power plant. Okay, so very dangerous what's happening here, and hopefully we don't have a major incident unfold before this war can potentially come to an end. So we'll move on to Ukrainian review now. If the radars don't see the drone that hit the Chernobyl nuclear power plant, then they did it on purpose. It flew low, and the hit was right in the sarcophagus, if I'm pronouncing that right, on the day the Munich conference began, Zelensky says. Okay, so yeah, very interesting too, the timing of this. And is this a message being sent from Russia, or was this an accident? We don't really know at this time. I'm thinking most likely it's more of a message being sent from Russia, because we never really seen anything like this, extremely like this, at least targeting a nuclear power plant. We just reported a few days ago, Zaporizhzhia nuclear power plant. Some of the power lines went offline. I think they were damaged due to attacks. Not sure if it was Ukraine or Russia who targeted it, but very dangerous. Okay, these nuclear power plants all over Ukraine. If they come under attack, we could have a major problem over here. Okay, major disaster. Now from the IAEA, which is the International Atomic Energy Agency, during the night of 13th to the 14th of February at around 1:50 a.m., IAEA team at the Chernobyl site heard an explosion coming from the new safe confinement, which protects the remains of Reactor 4 of the former Chernobyl nuclear power plant, causing a fire. They were informed that a UAV had struck the NSC roof. Okay, so very crazy, guys, and scary at the same time. Like, just imagine if this drone happened to penetrate through that and cause a major explosion over here. This would be really bad. That was a picture of the confinement structure there, taking that direct hit. You can see here also, and there was a fire that broke out on the top of it. So thankfully, this thing was actually covered. Imagine if it wasn't. Apparently, Ukraine, along with Western allies, had built this confinement years ago to protect this reactor. And thankfully, it's there. Imagine if it wasn't. That would have been really bad. Now from Kaja Kallas, who is the EU High Representative for Foreign Affairs and Security Policy, and also the Vice President of the European Commission. She says Russia recklessly attacked again at the Chernobyl nuclear site. Such attacks on civilian nuclear sites are unacceptable. It shows once again that Russia is not looking for peace. I mean, I would have to agree with that. Right now, it's just like what I stated a moment ago. It seems like Russia is not looking for peace right now. They're definitely stepping up their attacks more heavily and targeting more civilian infrastructure, targeting innocent people inside of Kiev, okay, Odessa, striking these gas facilities, now this nuclear power plant. So Russia is being very reckless right now. And just yesterday, we reported drones landing all over the place in other countries, not even Ukraine, okay? Moldova was seeing drones landing in their territory. Romania, I believe, had drones potentially entering their airspace. So just all over the place, okay? Even Belarus, okay? So Russia's being very reckless right now. Now from Astra, Ukrainian drones attacked Slavyansk on Kuban in Krasnodar region. Local authorities confirmed the attack, stating that an aerial target was intercepted over the city. Debris fell in a field on the outskirts, igniting dry grass, but the fire was quickly extinguished. No casualties or damage were reported. An oil refinery is located in Slavyansk on Kuban, which was previously targeted last year. Okay, so most likely that oil refinery over here in the Krasnodar region was being targeted. We've been seeing Ukraine going after refineries pretty repeatedly over the past probably month or so. And looks like Russia was able to potentially take down one of these drones, and it crashed in an open field, causing a fire over here. So as far as attacks inside of Russia last night, that's all I really heard of, was the Krasnodar region being attacked and nothing significant being hit. But we did have a fire that broke out due to a downed drone, okay? So now we're going to talk about this Munich Security Conference, okay? This is from War Translated. The Munich Security Conference 2025 has just started in Germany. The event was opened by the head of the Munich Conference, Christoph Heusgen, followed by an opening speech by German President Frank-Walter Steinmeier, if I'm pronouncing that right. The main topic was Russia's war against Ukraine. Okay, so just a quick clip coming out from the Munich Security Conference in 2025 to show you guys the opening here. Take a look at this.
US delegation. It was also Inhalt von Kleist to later on put Europe on the agenda. Today, US delegation.
All right, so lots of top officials from the West attending here. I think lots of senators as well from the United States. J.D. Vance is here, the vice president for the United States as well. So we're going to go ahead and jump into some topics here and talk about some of the statements coming out from this conference, okay? So this one from Max 24. We are clearly aware of what the Russians are going to do with Belarus. We will talk about this with the U.S. Russia will prepare 15 divisions for training and strengthening the situation in the Belarusian direction, says Volodymyr Zelensky. 100,000 to 150,000 people, a large group. I'm not sure that it will go on the offensive against Ukraine. It could be Poland, it could be the Baltic countries. Okay, so this is actually something that's been noted ever since yesterday. Zelensky mentioned this actually once yesterday as well, but apparently he's stating this again at this conference, that Russia could be preparing multiple divisions for training inside of Belarus, okay? And potentially, could they be trying to draw Belarus into the war? That could be a potential as well. I mean, this doesn't make any sense. Why would Russia be doing this if this war is coming to an end? But the West has been stating a lot, that Russia's producing so much weaponry right now. They're showing no signs of slowing down. They're expecting to maybe even launch an offensive in the future, maybe in a few years. So I'm not sure if this has anything to do with drawing Belarus into the war, or is this war going to expand and now draw NATO into this? Who really knows? But this was a statement coming out from Volodymyr Zelensky, I believe 2 times over the last 24 hours, okay? Now from Bliskovka, we are ready for negotiations with the U.S. and allies, and then when we agree on a position, we will talk to the Russians, Bloomberg quotes Zelensky. Okay, so Volodymyr Zelensky also stating today that they're preparing negotiations with the U.S. first and its allies. Once they do that, that's when they will talk to Russia next. Okay, so that's pretty much him just confirming that. Now he's also stated from War Monitor, if we have 150 to 160 F-16 aircraft plus 25 Patriot systems, then we are ready for a peacekeeping contingent exclusively of Ukrainians. Okay, so this was a big statement. So he's basically saying, give us more F-16 aircraft, plus 25 Patriot systems to completely cover Ukraine, and then also after that we'll create our own peacekeeping contingent, and it'll be exclusively of Ukrainians. We won't need any like Europeans or potentially U.S. troops or whoever else is going to be sent over here. Obviously not U.S. because they stated they'd be out of this, but most likely European troops would not be needed if they were able to have a good blanket of protection, basically militarily, is kind of what he's saying. Now for Max 24 again, Europe could provide up to 25,000 soldiers for deployment in Ukraine after a peace settlement, but at least 120,000 are needed, say EU and NATO officials, according to Welt. Okay, so Europe potentially providing 25,000 soldiers, but we have heard recently from Volodymyr Zelensky, he's been saying they need anywhere from 150 to 200,000. I think even 200 was like a limit, a minimum that they would need to protect this demilitarized zone if it gets created, which is most likely going to be the scenario inside of Ukraine. We're just not sure yet whether it's going to be European soldiers or if Ukraine is going to create their own contingent and defend their own borders. We don't know yet, okay? But that was a statement from Europe today. Again, from Max 24, U.S. will continue to help Ukraine, says Zelensky after meeting with U.S. senators, okay? So that's good news. We haven't seen any signs of U.S. support being drawn down to send weapons and supplies to Ukraine. It looks like that will continue. There is a pause right now. We haven't really seen any aid packages coming from the U.S. recently, but just before Joe Biden got out of office, before Trump came in, we did see a lot of major aid packages going to Ukraine. So maybe a lot of those weapons are still flowing over there and they don't really need a new package yet. But it also at the same time, Trump is in office and he keeps coming out and saying that, they want rare earth minerals in exchange for weapons. So I think they're more focused on this deal right now, trying to get Ukraine to sign a deal to transfer minerals to the United States in return for U.S. weapons. So here's another statement now from Nexta. U.S. Vice President may announce large-scale troop withdrawal from Europe at Munich conference, according to Bild. According to Bild, U.S. Vice President J.D. Vance could use the Munich Security Conference to announce a major reduction of American military presence in Europe. What do you think? A game changer or geopolitical disaster? Okay, so potentially, I think what could happen here is we could see the U.S. drawing down a lot of their troops and removing them from Europe, bringing them back to the U.S., and I think this might put a lot of pressure off of Russia. Maybe we'll see that happen, maybe we won't, but it looks like this could potentially be part of some sort of deal with Russia as well to end this war with Ukraine. We may see the U.S. withdraw a lot of their troops from Europe, okay? So expect to see that in the coming days or weeks. Now, also from More Translated again, U.S. Vice President J.D. Vance in a Wall Street Journal interview stated that the U.S. might deploy troops to Ukraine and impose tough sanctions on Russia if Putin doesn't agree to terms that ensure Ukraine's security and independence. Okay, so this is a big statement from J.D. Vance also, and I think More likely, he's just kind of stating this to kind of put pressure on Russia to let them know, hey, we mean business. We need to get this war over with. Don't be stalling negotiations. Don't try to back out, or we'll send troops into Ukraine. I don't think they would actually ever do that. Now, would they do that? Who knows? Maybe they would if under like a dire situation, maybe. But I think it's highly unlikely that that will be the case. I think this is more just to put pressure on Russia to get them to come to the negotiating table and strike a deal with Ukraine. All right, now from next to again, Zelensky, I don't see a concrete U.S. plan to end the war. Key statements from the Ukrainian president. It will be very difficult, just very difficult. I understand what might be discussed, things that belong to us. It will be hard, but who said we won't overcome difficulties? U.S. and Trump are not ready to discuss NATO membership for Ukraine. They believe Kiev cannot join the alliance. If we are not in NATO, Ukraine must have an army of 1.5 million soldiers with modern weaponry. Ukraine needs a serious military presence, not just peacekeeping missions. A peacekeeping force made up solely of Ukrainians could be an option, but weaponry remains a major issue. Ukraine will never recognize occupied territories as Russian. Okay, so major statements here. One thing I want to comment on is this right here, okay, where he says if we're not in NATO, Ukraine must have an army of 1.5 million soldiers and modern weaponry. So I think that could highly likely be the case if Europe decides to not send their own peacekeeping force to help out Ukraine. Ukraine will want to manage their own demilitarized zone and the freezing of the front line, and they would need a massive army to do that, and also to protect themselves from future attacks. So I think Ukraine will want to maintain a large army after this war ends. And also in terms of modern weaponry, I think they're going to get that already if they're able to strike a deal when it comes to these minerals that are inside of Ukraine that they might transfer to the U.S. Now from next to again, breaking, Zelensky said he is ready to meet with Putin, but on one condition. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky stated that he is not planning to meet with Russian officials except for Putin, and only under strict conditions. I will not meet with Russians. That is not part of my plans. I will meet only one Russian, Putin, but only after we have a common plan with Trump and Europe. Then we will sit down with Putin and end the war. Only in this case, I am ready to meet him. Earlier, President Donald Trump suggested that Russian and Ukrainian representatives could meet in Saudi Arabia. Okay, so very big statement as well from Zelensky today. He's coming out saying he will meet with Vladimir Putin, so that's a good sign. But again, it does look like Ukraine wants to wait, make sure they have a secured deal and security agreements as well with Donald Trump, the United States, and also European allies before they decide to do that. They want to make sure everything is squared away. They're completely protected from a Russian attack in the future, at least to the best of their ability with what they have available to them. And that's when they will work with Vladimir Putin and try to strike a deal. Now for Max 24, the Americans did not like Kiev's amendments to the minerals agreement. That is why the meetings between Vance and Zelensky was postponed, according to journalist Zabalina. Reuters sources stated that the U.S. wanted to force Zelensky to blindly sign the minerals agreement. Okay, so a couple days ago, we had Scott Bessent, the Treasury Secretary from the United States, showing up in Kiev trying to strike a deal with Ukraine and get Ukraine to sign some sort of agreement. And Zelensky apparently came out saying, no, we're not going to sign it right away. Let me review this. We were potentially hearing that we could hear maybe today that Ukraine could be signing some sort of deal with the United States. I have not heard that yet. But this is just kind of a map to show all the minerals that are inside of Ukraine. I understand it's not in English. I apologize for that. But these are all the different locations of tons of minerals that we know that Ukraine has inside of their country. The U.S. wants to take a hold of these, potentially up to 500 billion or more in rare earth minerals from Ukraine. So we'll see if that happens, but so far no update yet. But yeah, apparently the U.S. was going to force Ukraine to try to blindly sign this minerals agreement. And so far Zelensky is saying, no, we're not signing anything as of yet, okay? Now for Max 24 again, the U.S. has never seen us in NATO and did not want to see us there, says Zelensky. If there is no NATO, we will create NATO in Ukraine, Zelensky said. Okay, so 2 times in the last couple of days also with this statement, Zelensky coming out and saying that if they're not going to get into NATO, okay, well, we'll create our own NATO then. I'm assuming that just means they're going to need a really strong military. They're going to protect themselves. They will be their own NATO inside of Ukraine, meaning, a large army, powerful modern weapons to protect themselves from any further attack from Russia, and also be able to strike back against Russia if they ever get attacked again. So, a new statement from Zelensky today in regards to NATO. Now, from Igor Sushko, U.S. Secretary of Defense Hegseth, supplying Ukraine with nuclear weapons to guarantee security has not been ruled out. Okay, this was a huge statement yesterday, actually. And yeah, apparently the U.S. could be open to supplying Ukraine with nuclear weapons. Now, I don't think it's highly likely that that'll ever be the case that Ukraine could receive them, but for some reason they appear to be leaving the door open and leaving the option there that they may possibly provide Ukraine with nuclear weapons. So if that were to happen, that would be absolutely huge. And maybe this will be like a last-ditch effort to give Ukraine the security guarantees that they need, as if they were a nuclear state, I think it would prevent Russia from ever attacking them again, as obviously the main reason why they were attacked is because they're not a nuclear state, because they gave up their nuclear weapons a long time ago. So Ukraine's been calling for that from time to time as well, that could be a possible option to try to create a blanket of protection for Ukraine as well. So we'll see if that happens to be the case. That's pretty crazy news. Now, from Liskovka again, we can convince Putin that if he invades again, Ukraine will immediately join NATO, says Senator Lindsey Graham, who's a senator from South Carolina in the United States, on options for a peaceful settlement. Nobody wants to be a provocateur. If we can take Ukraine into NATO, Putin will go crazy. He's already gone crazy, I think, says Graham. Okay, so a major statement coming out from Lindsey Graham, and something I will note. He does speak, very often. He speaks very provocative and very aggressive when it comes to war. He's very pro-war, it seems like sometimes, but also at the same time, I think he's trying to just show off a position of strength. So yeah, he's coming out and saying that, maybe they should make a proposal to Vladimir Putin and say, hey, you know what? If you ever decide to attack Ukraine ever again, we'll just draw Ukraine right into NATO immediately. Okay, all bets will be off. Ukraine will get into NATO, and that'll be it. And then Vladimir Putin may not want to attack Ukraine ever again if that happens to ever be a true agreement. So, not sure if that'll be part of the peace plan. Maybe it will, maybe it won't. But that could be good for Ukraine in terms of security guarantees. As maybe they choose to not go into NATO right now, but if they were ever to be attacked again, bam, they're right into NATO immediately. Okay, so that could actually be really good for them. Also from Max 24, Putin is assembling a heavyweight team with decades of experience in high-stakes negotiations to face off against Trump's representatives for a deal to end Russia's war in Ukraine, according to Bloomberg. Yuri Ushakov, his chief Kremlin foreign policy advisor, Sergei Narishkin, who served with Putin in the Soviet KGB, Kirill Dmitriev, a financier educated at Stanford and Harvard with ties to the Russians' president's own family. Okay, so Putin assembling his team of heavyweights to negotiate a Ukrainian deal. Okay, so that's good sign as well. If Russia's putting together a team to negotiate a deal, then that means that it looks like, at least for now, they're open to working out some sort of deal to try to end this war. So in a way, that could be some good news that Russia is working that direction. Now from Nexta, shocking Ukraine deal. Is everything already decided? Negotiations between Russia and the U.S. on Ukraine will lead to a deal that will shock many people, said U.S. Vice President J.D. Vance. He also suggested a reset in U.S.-Russia relations if a settlement is reached. According to him, Trump's stance on Ukraine may shift depending on how negotiations progress. For now, his goal to convince Putin that diplomacy will bring him more than the battlefield. If talks stall, Russia will face tougher sanctions and Ukraine will receive more U.S. aid. What do you think about this? Okay, so that was a new statement from J.D. Vance today. Okay, we'll read this again. Negotiations between Russia and the U.S. on Ukraine will lead to a deal that will shock many people. Okay, so I'm assuming some sort of deal is going to come out that people are not expecting. That's what I'm thinking is coming. Or maybe this is a sign of them saying, hey, we've got this war already wrapped up and it's going to be ending soon. That could be a good thing as well. Because ultimately, at the end of the day, the number one thing here is to stop the unnecessary killing that's been happening inside of Ukraine and Russia's side. All these people that are losing their lives that shouldn't be. Yeah, so that's a big statement today coming out from J.D. Vance, okay? All right, now on to Nexta again. Poland strengthens fortifications on the border with Belarus and Russia. Poland's Ministry of Defense has announced the completion of the first section of fortifications along its border with Belarus and Russia. The reinforcements were built near strategically important border crossings. The government has accelerated efforts to enhance border security. So far, additional fortifications cover 2.3 kilometers, with preparations underway for the next phase of construction. Okay, so we've been knowing about this for well over a year now, that Poland has been beefing up their defenses on the border with Belarus in preparation for this war coming to an end, and also to prepare for a future war with Russia and maybe even Belarus as well, because obviously Belarus is allies to Russia. So, yeah, this is a new picture coming out showing new fortifications that have been built on the border with Poland. Okay, so new update from there today. All right, now from Anton Gerashenko, Russian oil companies are preparing to start forced production cuts as they are unable to sell millions of barrels of oil, Reuters reports, citing 3 oil executives and more than 10 traders, refining executives, and port agents. Volumes from Russia's western ports of Primorsk, Ust-Luga, and Novorossiysk in January were down 17% from a year earlier, and the cost to transport a cargo from Russia's Pacific ports of Kozmino to China up fivefold in January, Reuters calculations based on traders' data showed. As a result, Russian firms and traders have stored 17 million barrels aboard ships since January 10th, up from 0 at the start of the year, Goldman Sachs estimates. The figure could rise to 50 million barrels in the first half of 2025. There is nowhere to store this oil. There is almost no large storage facilities in Russia, and those that do exist were hit in January. It is also difficult to refine the excess oil at refineries. Drone attacks have knocked out around 10% of Russian refining capacity. Reuters calculations based on traders' data showed major sites including the Ryazan, Volgograd, and Astrakhan refineries have shut fuel production, and it will take weeks or months to restore it. Drones attacked Russia's limited oil storage as well as pipelines and pumping stations, disrupting flows to export ports and refineries in January, traders said. Today, Russia produces 8.9 million barrels per day, fulfilling the OPEC Plus production cut deal. Compared to a 2019 record, 11.25 million barrels per day, oil production is down 20%. Okay, so that was a lot of reading. Sorry about that, guys. But very big updates regarding Russia's oil industry, okay? More signs that Russia's oil industry is struggling, okay? They don't have anywhere to store oil. Many of these oil tankers are starting to now store oil on these boats, and they don't even have storage to store excess oil. And at the same time, their refining capacity has been destroyed due to all these drone attacks inside of Russia. So, I mean, Russia's oil industry is just completely falling apart right now. And I think it's in their best interest to start working on that and throwing all this money that is coming from this war into their oil industry so they can repair it, as they're clearly having major problems right now, and they're going to have to start forcing production cuts. Okay, so that's very bad. If they're doing that, they're definitely under the water right now in terms of producing oil. Okay, they're not in good shape. Now for Mosin Defender, besides the drone which struck the Chernobyl nuclear power plant, last night Russia launched over 133 Shahed 136 and other drones against Ukraine, with the Ukrainian Air Force reported to have downed at least 73 drones. All right, so update today as of February 14th, 2025. We had 133 drones going into Ukraine. Looks like at least 73 were taken down, according to Ukrainian air defense teams, okay? Finally, one last update to let you guys know about here from the Kyiv Independent. These are the indicative estimates of Russia's combat losses as of February 14th, according to the armed forces of Ukraine. All right, and as we can see here, Russia's losses as of February 14th, 1,200 troops, 16 AFVs, 156 vehicles and fuel tanks, 17 tanks, 81 artillery systems, 152 UAVs, 4 MLRS, 3 anti-aircraft warfare systems, and 1 special equipment. Okay, so a couple more things to note. Still a lot of tanks, okay? We've been seeing over 15 tanks being destroyed for the last probably 4 days now. Lots of vehicles and fuel tanks as well, and almost 200, okay, 156. And still maintaining that troop number right around 12 to 1,300. We've been seeing that pretty much every day now, okay? So huge updates from this war today. Just wanted to get you guys caught up on what's going on with this Munich Security Conference, some of the statements that were coming out today, and also something that I forgot to mention at the beginning of this video is Happy Valentine's Day to all of you out there. Hope you had a special loved one, whether it's a family member or maybe a partner to you. and I hope you shared some good vibes with them and let them know that you appreciate them and that you love them today. Okay, so happy Valentine's Day to everybody out there, and I want to thank you guys so much for tuning in for this update. If you got something out of this, please smash that like button. Also, if you enjoy my content, please consider subscribing down below. Hit the notification bell, that way YouTube can notify you. And with that, hope you all have a great day. Everybody take care and God bless, and we'll see you in the next one.